This is the Montana Outdoor Podcast, brought to you in part by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. And by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, get ready for more fascinating topics and the most interesting people you will ever find in Montana's great outdoors. We offer new podcasts most every Saturday. You can get a link to these podcasts by going to our website, montanooutdoor.com, or by going to our Facebook page, or just send an email to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com and say send a link to my email. It's that simple. Now let's head out with your host, Downrigger Dale, and see what's going on in Montana's great outdoors.
Thank you very much, Manny. And as Manny just said, I am Downrigger Dale with the Montana Outdoor Podcast. So glad to have all of you along with us as we continue to grow. I really appreciate it when you guys share the podcast. That always helps us a great deal. Share it on Facebook, Instagram, wherever you want to share it. A lot of people are starting to share it on Twitter now. So really do appreciate you all being here. A special shout out to our active military members who listen to the show on a regular basis. We are very humbled and honored that you join us on a regular basis from all over the place. I know several of you listen from Ramstein Air Force Base, as well as a lot of you over in the Middle East and other parts unknown. But we love it that you're all here with us, and we want to thank you for your service, and hope this podcast brings a little bit of home back to you as you protect our country and do such a great job of that. Now, let's get into what we're going to talk about today. Now, this is going to be a fun project for me because, one, I'm kind of thinking about this, and two, I think almost every one of you either needs this product or is looking for this product. So this is perfect timing. Let's welcome in Ryan Medlinger. If you recognize that last name, because one of our sponsors is Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Yep, he is related to that family, and they do such a great job. And you know, we've talked a lot about Superior Hardwoods of Montana, and that, you know, when you're remodeling or when you want to build that really cool cabin on the river, that, boy, do they have some great stuff. Well, kind of along those lines, Ryan is the owner of Reliable Steel Erectors. Now, I know right away you're going to say, now, wait a minute, Downrigger, what in the heck does that have to do with the hunting and fishing that we usually talk about? Well, as you go along, you're going to realize this is right down our road, and that is, let's think about it. Almost all of you probably have more money tied up in your tools and vehicles and toys than you have in your own home. It's so important. I mean, nowadays, a good fishing boat, that's over $100,000, and you need to protect that. Well, Ryan's company builds incredible steel buildings, and these are outbuildings, but beyond that, they get into some really cool ways of making that building actually a home or a guest house or whatever. So we're going to learn all about it here, but let's get to know Ryan a little bit. Ryan, why don't you give us a little of your background, how you got into this business and all that?
Yeah, Dale. So my name's Ryan. I was born and raised in Missoula, Montana. I went to Sentinel High School. Right out of high school, I started doing pre-engineered metal buildings. I started erecting pre-engineered metal buildings through a company called Hop Construction. I worked for them for several years, and then I went over to another company called Fred Carl Construction, and I built steel buildings for them. I actually built two of the buildings for my dad's company, two of the millwork buildings that he has over there.
Oh, you built those buildings?
Yeah,
okay, I've been in those buildings.
Yeah, so I was working for Fred Carl at the time, and we were one of the guys over there building them.
Okay.
Yeah, and then so from out of that, I got into the mining industry, and I moved over to Troy, Montana, and I started working in the mines, and we actually did a bunch of steel sets in the mines, portal frames, shops underground, that kind of thing. And then I ended up meeting another company, a mining company called Small Mine Development. And I moved over to Elko, Nevada, and started doing steel sets and steel buildings underground over there. 2021 hit, and I'd been in the mining industry for about 16 years. Decided to kind of shift gears, and I've been dreaming about the whole time and thinking about the whole time about erecting steel buildings again. And so 21, we decided to sell our house in Elko and move back to Montana and start this business. And I got connected with a few of the guys that I used to build steel frame buildings with, and I got them on our team, and I've just been developing a great team of people so far.
So as they say, the rest is history, and here you are. I'll tell you, this product is used so much by the people in the outdoor industry. I mean, our outbuildings, I'll bet you 80% of our listeners probably spend more time in their outbuilding than they do in their house, because we use them for work, our shops, our, storing our boats and everything else. So let's talk about your company. You've already mentioned some of it. But let's talk about, some of the buildings that you pick up. So when we talk about a steel building, what is the difference between that and, say, a wood frame building with the aluminum siding, like a traditional outbuilding we see, or a shop we see?
So instead of wood columns and wood trusses, we use wood or steel columns and steel rafters, steel purlins, steel girts. Everything's made out of steel. And also with steel buildings, you can achieve a way wider span of a building. And it's just, it's fire resistant. You can hold a higher R value with metal buildings.
Oh, really?
They're just way more versatile.
I would have thought the opposite with steel buildings, that they would have been more of a colder building, but you actually have a better insulated building with a steel building?
Yeah, there's some systems out there called energy saver systems and simple saver systems, and they can hold up to an R38 value in the roof and in the walls.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, that is a pretty big difference.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like usually your wall span is only about 2x4 wide. These are wider girts, so like your wall.
Oh, I got you.
Your wall space is more like 8 inches, so you can fit twice as much insulation into that cavity there.
So for where we live in Montana, that's huge.
Yeah, that is huge, and also steel buildings hold the bigger snow load. So if you're like in Sealy or somewhere where you need a bigger snow load, then steel buildings are definitely the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah, and we hear about that all the time, where a building collapses or whatever, because you forget that snow weighs a tremendous amount, and down it comes. What about cost, though? That was one I was thinking about before this interview. As far as, well, isn't steel real expensive? I mean, tell us a bit about the difference in cost from your traditional kind of shop construction to this steel construction.
In some cases, yeah, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. There's kind of a range. If you're below 5,000 square feet, it's going to be more expensive to build a steel frame building. But if you start getting bigger, above 5,000 feet into 10,000 square feet, the price range is actually pretty comparable to a wood building. And also, I mean, once you get bigger than 5,000 and you want those wider spans with no columns in the middle, then you just have to go steel, because it's just more structurally stable.
So you can get make a bigger building, a bigger span, without having to put,
columns in the middle of it.
Columns in the middle. Then you've got, I guess a way to put it in our outdoor folk mind is, a half ton might be a pickup, but when you go to 3/4 ton or 1 ton, now you're hauling a better load. It's more reliable. It's more steady and stable, and pulls a bigger boat.
Definitely.
So, okay. All right. That makes sense to me. Now, you mentioned that the strength of the building has a lot of huge benefits to it. You talked about that, we've got a little bit better R value in that. as far as just the construction and that, we'll get into the different designs and all that in a second, but any other benefits that you see that our listeners can understand as far as what steel buildings will do for them?
I mean, yeah, it's all about the square footage, having a bunch of square footage, and the snow loads and the high R values, and the fire resistance to having metal versus wood.
Yeah, that's a big.
And then you don't have to worry about any kind of bugs getting into the wood or damaging it, or wood rot or anything like that. Those are some of the major values of a steel building.
Now, I want to get into the types of construction that you do, and one of them just flat blew me away because I think this concept is becoming very popular. I'm seeing it more and more and more. In fact, I was just over in Fort Peck, and they were putting up this huge shop or outbuilding. But I mean, this thing was huge. But then you start to see all these windows and all that, and you go, well, now wait a minute. That's like a home, but I mean, the way it was designed and that, it was just really cool. We ended up stopping and just going in and looking at it and talking to the guy, and really, really cool. There's different terms for them. The one that I hear, what this guy calls a barndominium.
Correct.
So, okay, what is a barndominium?
So a barndominium pretty much is combining your shop with your house. So you pretty much have all your toys and stuff right inside with your living quarters. Some people make a deck even outside, looking over their shop areas, so your wife can come out there and tell you it's time for dinner or whatever. I mean, it's just more. The other conveniency of it is you don't have two buildings. You don't have to dig trenches and run utilities to two different buildings. Everything can be contained in one space.
Right. Well, and to me, when I'm looking at it, it seems like it's a way better use of the ground. I mean, nowadays in Montana, a lot, whether you're talking a few acres or just a small lot, it's damn expensive. And to be able to incorporate the home and the shop and everything together, now you're using that space more efficiently. So you've got more of the land to, do whatever you want, more yard, more pasture land, or whatever you want to do with it. So I really like that concept. What, as far as some of the people that you've built this for, what are they using a barndominium for? Give us some examples of what they do.
So we got one building that we did up at the top of the Lolo Pass up Highway 12. And it was for a sponsored snowmobile rider, and they own a bunch of land up there, so they're developing land. So they got his place has like 4 massive garages built on. It's one building, but he's got all of his logging equipment, excavators, water trucks, all in his area for developing all these properties up there. Plus he's got his living quarters in there too. And then he even has an area for all of his workers to live in there too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So bunk beds built into the walls. I mean, it's pretty sophisticated. If you walked into this building, you wouldn't think it was a steel. I mean, if you walked in one side of the building, you wouldn't think it was a steel frame building. You'd think it was like this elaborate house. Yeah. And then you walk through the other side and it's a nice shop area. So, I mean,
you're getting the best of both worlds.
You definitely are.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing, and I can hear, some of the gals listening saying, okay, I get it. That sounds great, but I don't want to live in just a big steel box. You can make these things, you kind of hit it around a bit there. You can make these things really feel like a house.
Yes, they can be bougie.
Bougie, I like it.
They can be.
How about for the outside? Can you do different treatments on the outside too?
Yeah, that's where I'm really trying to be different or stand out different from all the other the steel erectors. Is we're trying to tie a lot of wood into this, especially because I utilize my brother over at superior hardwoods. And I mean, we can cap all the steel rafters and make it look like wood beams going up through the house.
Okay.
I mean, we can inlay wood on the top, so it's got a wood ceiling. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do to make it feel more homey and more like a house.
Well, one of the ones that I saw when I was just kind of, if you Google Barndominiums, you're going to see all kinds of stuff. But we can go straight to your website, too, and see some of the things that you're doing. I'm sure you'll be adding more. What's the website again for that?
It's ReliableSteelErectors.com.
ReliableSteelErectors.com. Now, those of you listening, especially if you're new to this podcast, if you go to the podcast description, whether you found it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or our own site, wherever, when you look at that description, down at the bottom, you're going to see it says links, and I'll have a link right there. So it'll be real easy for you. Just go and click on it and boom, you can see it. But I saw one, it wasn't on your site, but it was one that was really interesting. You talked about the deck. So it had this deck going off of it outside, but then, like you were saying, it had a deck inside that overlooks the shop. So you could go either way off of the living room. And what was really neat about it was that, let's say the weather gets really bad, the way they had it set up, it was like they were sitting outside, but they were inside the building, out on the deck. You put your shorts on and all that. And then come summer, you switch it around and out you go. So it really does have some really neat qualities. Now, for those of us that say we've got some land on a river or that where, it gets a little tricky with slope and all that, any drawbacks to that, or can you pretty much put it wherever you want, as long as you can make a flat spot, huh?
No, I mean, we can pretty much put up a steel building wherever. We have done a few on hills that have, what are they called? The walls. Retaining walls, yes. So we put them up with retaining walls so the columns are shorter on one side than they are on the other side.
Yeah, so like on a river, if you're wanting a view of the river or whatever, so you're kind of on that. Okay, that makes sense.
Definitely, it's doable.
Yeah. Yeah, and the other thing I love about the concept of what you're doing here is, especially when your land is a little challenging like that, I mean, you can make this a drive-through building. So you pull in one end, go out the other way. So in other words, your driveway is kind of coming right through the house. And that's really cool, especially if you're in some of these winter, areas where the winter lasts a long time. And so folks pull up, they actually pull in, boom, park, and then the house portion's right there. I mean, there's just so many different things that you guys can do to put that in there. So when you're combining the living space with that, how do you do that as far as like all the electrical? I mean, do you have to heat the shop portion, or is it truly just a whole separate thing all within one building? Because one of the things I was wondering about is, okay, do we have a worry about pipes freezing or any of that stuff?
Not typically. A lot of these buildings have sophisticated monoslabs with all the plumbing inside the concrete.
Oh, okay.
And inside the electric too, or the electrical is inside of it too. Mm-hmm. And then also they can run electric through the girt walls, through that cavity that I was talking about in between the sheeting and the insulation barrier. Mm-hmm. And typically what people do is they get the big propane heaters to heat the shops up.
Right. Yeah.
And
typical ones kind of hanging in the corner type thing or something.
And then definitely, you can still have central air systems running throughout the house on the other side. Mm-hmm. You just have to have a utility room to hold everything in. And space isn't usually a problem to hold, have an extra utility room somewhere to
Sure. Yeah, you got all kinds of space for that because you got that kind of shell. Now just design it however you want. Some of the things I've seen in some of the work you've done is it really truly is like walking into a whole different place when the way that you guys can make it. Now I've seen some of these where, where the shop ends and the house begins, you're not really sure. And then others, it's a distinct deal. And you open that door and you're like, all of a sudden you're in this luxurious home. I mean, it's really a neat concept. Now, the other term I've heard that it's called is a shouse, which is the house and shop put together. Is that the same thing as a barndominium then?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering because I thought, okay, well, wait a minute, is this different than that? What about resale value? Have you heard anything on that as far as, if you build one of these barndominiums, which is, they are getting a lot more popular. I guarantee you, folks, you Google that, you're going to see there's a lot out there. But what's your feeling there as far as resale goes?
I believe that they're very comparable to a regular house. I don't think there's any really difference there.
Well, especially in Montana.
Yeah, and I think that more goes off square footage and other stipulations than metal versus a wood building. I mean, if anything, insurance companies should look at it as, a better building to insure because of the fire, resistance.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I didn't think about that. And the fact that it's just built incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's going to last a lot longer.
Yeah. It's not going to go anywhere.
No, it's not.
Sure. How about timing for building something like this? Does it take longer? Is it a shorter time build?
It's about the same.
About the same
as a wood building, maybe even shorter in some cases. Our lead times from our manufacturers are anywhere from 9 to 10 weeks to get the kit or to get the building sent to us. And then we can put up a 5,000 square foot building in about 4 weeks.
Oh, well, that is pretty quick.
And then, a 10,000 square one is around 7 to 8 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And then, of course, depending on finishes, that's where, time is going to
definitely
longer or shorter, depending on how elaborate you want to get it. And the cool thing is working with Superior Hardwoods. I mean, if they want to get, as you say, really bougie, Superior Hardwoods, my goodness, they carry. Oh man, I was in there a while back and just seeing like some of the things you could make a cool bar out of, or all these different exotic woods and that I was talking to Corey about the new Marcus Daly. What was it, like a mining flume, that all the wood that was a redwood that came from, it went from Georgetown Lake to the Phillipsburg mines, and it was like the lumber from that, just really cool looking. So yeah, this guy's got the connections on about everything different you want to do. We're going to take a quick break here, and when we come back, Ryan, I want to talk a bit about combining, from the residential and commercial side, if you've had any experience on there as far as, is it easier or cheaper? And I know this is one that we may not know, and if not, I'm going to put some links later once I do a little more research on insurance-wise. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But then I want to talk about the commercial uses of steel buildings and how that goes, because a tremendous number of our listeners are business owners as well. So let's talk about that when we come back right after this. I mentioned it before, and I'll say it again. It means a great deal to everyone that works on this podcast to have so many of you listening each week. Thank you all so very much. Another huge thank you needs to also go out to my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Without their support, we simply would not have a podcast. Just like us, you can depend on Superior Hardwoods of Montana, especially when you're ready to turn the place you live into your home. Now, what do I mean? Well, the place you live is not really your home until it reflects who you are. One of the best ways to do that is to go see my friends at Superior Hardwoods of Montana. For example, they have some incredible antique redwood reclaimed from a Marcus Daly water plume built back in 1917, running from Georgetown Lake to the Phillipsburg mines. They have many other reclaimed options to choose from, as well as like corral board, antique oak, granary lumber, barn siding that is beautifully aged from natural weathering. That could be perfect for your home's soffit, siding, or paneling on an accent wall. They also have antiqued hand-hewn beams and saw-cut timbers that in a way is a tribute to our American history and to your home. Superior Hardwoods is also the place to find the perfect wood to create the ultimate outdoor space, like that incredible deck you've always wanted. Yeah, Superior Hardwoods of Montana is for sure your decking headquarters. Not only do they have a variety of exotic hardwood decking options, but they also have domestic classic traditional cedar. And the best part of that is they are offering exclusive pricing on gorgeous high-quality cedar decking right now. There are lots of benefits to cedar decking. It is resistant to temperature and weather conditions. It won't warp due to moisture. It is rot resistant and requires less maintenance than other softwoods. Go see them on the web at superior-hardwoods.com or stop by their showroom in Missoula and let them guide you through the woods. Remember, on the web it's superior-hardwoods.com. Oh, you're gonna love what they do to your home. We're back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. We're talking with Ryan Medlinger of Reliable Steel Erectors. And this is a really neat business, folks. And it's right up our alley for outdoor folks, because you think about housing your boat, your truck, your work truck, on and on and on, in something that's going to protect it, keep it under there. But then, if you want, you could actually combine the home part of it. And that's where we were talking about these Shouses or Barndominiums, which are becoming so popular, especially with those of us that love the outdoors, because now we've got it all right together. So really cool ideas and cool things. Now, ReliableSteelErectors.com, was that the correct website? Yeah. So again, look for that link on the podcast description, and you can go there, and that you're going to see a lot of interesting stuff. And they're also going to talk a bit about, showing you all these different designs they've done, and that's going to give you a lot of ideas. Let's talk about commercial buildings. A lot of our listeners are business owners, got a lot of listeners that also come on the show quite often that are boat dealers and all that. I'm seeing that seems to be a trend with, for example, one of our sponsors on the Montana Outdoor Radio Show is Brett's. And they've got some huge showrooms and stuff. And what they're using is big steel buildings so they can make that span and have a showroom. They actually are doing indoor boat shows because they've got this steel building where they don't have to have poles and stuff in the middle of the building. Talk about the different designs, things that you can do for a commercial building. What are some of the uses that you've seen in this business?
Well, we did conquer a dispensary over in Ennis, Montana. We did a dispensary over there.
Oh, okay.
What else? A lot of the commercial buildings we have done are through people that are building these buildings, and then they're leasing them out to companies.
Oh,
and I mean, they're getting quite a bit of money like $10 a square foot for 10,000 square foot building. So 10 grand a month for a building that they're leasing out to companies that are coming into Missoula.
Yeah, and that's whether it's Missoula or anywhere in Montana, that's happening a lot. In fact, when we're done here, I'm going to give you some contact information of I did a podcast with Brickstell Defense. They are moving into Glendive, and they are building a massive operation there. Where they are going to be employing, I think, once they're all done, it's going to be over 400 people. And they're primarily making ammunition for the Department of Defense. But again, these are the kind of buildings, whether we have a lot of listeners that are into the making rifles or, a lot of mechanics, like I said, boat dealers, on and on and on. This really gives them the great options, because what I like about it is now you can get the size and not worry about, one, as we talked about, having the stuff in the middle of it, but then also once you start getting in Montana, you start getting in those great big buildings, you really got to worry about the snow situation. Now you've got a real strong building to handle that. Have you seen where people will, I suppose it would be possible, I don't know why it wouldn't, since you can combine it as a house / shop or outbuilding, could they do the same thing as far as is making one half of it like a, more of a formal, fancier indoor business, and then the other half for their trucks and stuff like that? I imagine that's done a lot nowadays, huh?
Yeah, there was a building just put up in Phillipsburg for the brewery, the guy that owns the brewery over in Phillipsburg.
Yeah, perfect. That would make a lot of sense.
And he has, it's a massive 20,000 square feet, and then he's got a mezzanine in it that goes the span of the building, and he's got, I think, 9 offices up there that he leases out to different companies. Mm-hmm. So he utilizes the big part of the building, and then he made a mezzanine on one side of it to lease out to smaller companies in Phillipsburg.
Mm-hmm. So, for example, now that you got my head really turning here, these would be perfect for like a marina operation, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah.
Where they've got, where you could actually incorporate, whether it be over the water and then on the land. And then of course they've got all the repair stuff, shops, and then getting into boat storage. Is a steel building kind of overkill for using it as a storage center, or is that another normal use to it?
No, I think it's a great use for storage. We build several or storage units. We also do garages, shops, carports, overhangs, pergolas, sheds.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of uses for metal buildings other than just the barndos and commercial and.
Yeah, and you don't have to, again, we're talking about that cool thing of incorporating, but you don't have to include your home into it if you don't want to. What about, can you give me any examples on costs? And I know, and if you don't feel comfortable, obviously everyone is different, but, is there a price per square foot kind of thing, or what would be some of the costs for this? Like if I wanted to do like a 2-bay shop, your typical, I don't know what they would be, 10,000 square feet or something like that, just the normal shop. Do you have an idea of what the kind of expense that would be? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I think I just did a quote on an 8,000. Or I just did 100 by 100, and I think it came out, the building itself was right around, it was just a little under 200,000 for the building, for a 10,000 square foot building.
Okay. That's not bad.
No, then you got to figure your cost of the concrete and then the erection price.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, can you take care of all of it, though, as far as we don't have to go find a concrete guy and this guy and that guy? You just can do the whole thing?
No, definitely. We're a general contractor that specializes in metal buildings.
Okay. So, yeah, we just turn you loose and you take care of it. What about, like, if we're going to do the Barndominium or any of that, and we're thinking about design and that, do you have access to people that can kind of design it for them, or is that something you guys do? Or
yeah, so if it's going to be like a sophisticated big build with like lots of windows, you got to bring it to an architect, and then they'll decide if it's better to go with a pre-engineered metal building or an actual engineered structural building. So there's a little bit of difference there. One's pre-engineered, comes in a kit, and then one is actually designed by an engineer.
Oh, okay.
And then the metal is made and then shipped to us, and then it's put up kind of differently than a kit building would be.
Now, if you go with the more standard kit buildings, does that save a little money there?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
The structural buildings that have to be engineered, because you're saving the money of the engineer and the architect and everything. But we have a few architects that we deal with that if you have a dream or a design that you want to come to me with, we'll just bring it to them. And usually they come up with the whole picture, and then we present it to you, and then we'll give you guys a set of numbers, and we can go from there.
Okay. Well, I want to take another quick break, but when we come back, I want to talk about timing. because I know in construction in Montana, boy, it's been tough. You know, you say, hey, I want to build that, and you start looking around for contractors, and you go, man, it may be a few years before they can start. So let's talk about what your schedule's looking like if any of the folks out there want to get going on something like this. And then we'll discuss more and, you know, do a little dreaming ourselves when we come back right after this. Hey, gang, thanks for supporting and listening to this podcast. I can't tell you how much it means to all of us that you're here. And speaking of support, we would not be able to do this podcast at all if it weren't for sponsors like Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. It is truly an honor to have Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer on our team. You know, if you own a trailer, you ought to think about adding them to your team, too. They can service your trailer, and when it comes to repairing trailers, well, you won't find anyone better at it than Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. If it's parts you need to do your own service and repairs, well, they are the place for that. Another thing you may not know about Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer is they install all kinds of accessories for the truck that pulls your trailer. Whether it's just the necessary items to help your truck get the trailer down the road perfectly, or all those gadgets and bells and whistles to dress your truck up a bit and, well, make it your unique style. And here's the best part. The folks that do all those repairs and installations are real technicians. They do things the right way and do it to such a degree of precision and reliability that you can roll down the road with confidence. Whether you need your trailer bearings packed, the whole thing rewired, or the right fifth wheel, or any kind of hitch installed, you're going to know that your trailer is ready to haul what you want worry-free. No matter if it's getting you and your four-legged coworker to the next rodeo or job, or just hauling a load to the dump, or getting the boat and RV to your favorite fishing hole, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has you covered. And of course, if you need a new trailer, they can set you up with a brand new Diamond C gooseneck equipment, dump trailer, or whatever else you need to haul wherever you are going worry-free, happy, and looking good, too. Heck, they even carry an amazing line of CM truck beds that'll make your rig look and work like new. It's what they do at Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They're in Missoula, or you can find them on the web at rmtte.com. That's rmtte.com. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. Go see them. In Montana, discover a land where adventure roams free. Explore small towns where every corner tells a story and every greeting comes with a smile. Saddle up for breathtaking horseback rides or catch a fish in a crystal clear lake. Spend your evening sharing stories around a campfire under a starlit sky. That's how you Montana. Plan your trip at visitmt.com. That's visitmt.com. We are back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Want to thank our new sponsor, visitmontana.com. Thank you so much. And if you guys haven't seen that website, check that out. Especially send the link to any of your family and friends that are thinking about coming to Montana. Got some great ideas and things to do on that. So again, check that out. Now, I'm with Ryan Medlinger. He is with Reliable Steel Erectors, and they build these really, really cool steel buildings. And not just your run-of-the-mill shop, which they can do, but I'm talking about whether you want great big or just a small outbuilding or some, Barndominium like we were talking about, or a Shouse, as some people call them, where it's the house and the shop and that all together. So Reliable Steel Erectors.com is the website. So go check that out. Again, I have a link down there in the podcast description. Let's talk timing now, Ryan. That can be a challenge in Montana because you kind of hinted to it. A lot of folks are moving to Montana for good reason. They're just tired of all the BS going on in a lot of these big cities that is just a mess. And here in Montana, we still treat each other pretty well and run our state and our cities pretty good. So a lot of people want to come join in on that. what's your schedule looking like if somebody said, I want to get going on building this? What kind of a delay would we have before you could start on something?
Right now, about the only delay would be the lead times on getting the building, which is about 9 weeks.
Okay.
Other than that, we're working with several different subcontractors and concrete, electrical, plumbing. So, I mean, we can get things started pretty quickly.
Well, that's nice to hear.
I mean, a 5,000, yeah, we already kind of spoke about this, but a 5,000 square foot building, we're doing in about 4 weeks. And then,
so once the materials and all that stuff gets in there and you get going, it's about 5 weeks.
yeah, and usually during that time of the lead time of the 9 weeks, waiting for that building, we'll get dirt work done, we'll get permitting started, we'll get the electrical and plumbing contractors signed up and get numbers in from them so that we can develop a price and send it off to the client.
So yeah, so you'll put all that stuff together. You've got the building coming in. By the time the building gets in there, you guys are all ready to rock and roll at that point.
The slab should be there and the equipment should be there ready to go. And then a group of guys will show up and erect the building. And
so this is an excellent option for those of you listening out there. If you want to get going right now, obviously that's going to change if a whole bunch of you decide that you want to do this. But I would jump on that right now because I'm telling you, gang, this you go out and decide you want to build something. For a lot of stuff, you're waiting a long time, and that's just because it's busy. A lot of stuff going on, and I like this option because a lot of it is, what would you call it, prefabricated or?
Pre-engineered metal building.
So it's pre-engineered. It's all there. So when you sit down with a client, let's talk a little bit about that experience. When you sit down with somebody and that, how does that go? So do you have, like, for your pre-engineered, do you have some different examples you can show them? Kind of talk us through, if I said, Ryan, I want to build a Barndominium. Are there pre-engineered settings for something like that?
So pretty much we just kind of come up with how many rooms you want, exactly what you want in the house, part of it, how many bathrooms, how big the kitchen is. And then we kind of figure out that square footage and how much room we need for that. And then we try and decide how much room you want for your shop. So, I mean, like if you had a 5,000 square foot shop or a building to build, then you could use 3,000 square feet of it for living quarters, and then you can have a 2,000 square foot you know, garage or shop or gym or whatever you want to make it into.
Yeah, and that gives you a hell of a lot of space on both sides then.
Oh yeah. I mean, a 3,000 square foot house is pretty big.
Yeah, that's huge. So that gives you folks an idea. So when we sit down and we say, okay, you're going to show us some different configurations and how that goes, and in that, I mean, I guess when people hear, shop or building like that, they just think a square with a pitched roof, or a, what do you call that one? Just your normal roof. The peak roof. So can you do different stuff where maybe it's not the traditional looking, roof setup in that, or
we do a lot of single slopes.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
We do a lot of single slope shops. So I mean, that's just it. That advantage is you have all your snow and all your rain just runs to one side. If you didn't want it going to both sides, or
just like to take advantage of the view or something like that.
Yeah, so. And they're a little bit cheaper too, just because there's less metal involved. Just having a single slope building.
And then,
but yeah, after you guys come to us with your picture or your dream, and we draw it all out, then we decide how big the building is, and then we get that building purchased, and then we'll send everything over to an architect and get everything designed within the building, all the wood stuff, and then from there we just start building.
And like you say, while this the kit per se is on its way, the architect can be working on that. You're busy getting everybody ready to roll. So yeah, it's a pretty smooth operation that way. So once we get that and we decide how that's all going to get laid out, then for I would assume you can put any kind of a setting around it as far as then going off of it with decks and that sort of stuff. Pretty simple deal there, just a normal wood deck and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. You can build anything off of it.
Mm-hmm. Now, do most people do, when they do one of these barndominiums, is it just like a one story, or do you see people doing like the house, the living quarters side, a 2-story or whatever?
Yeah, definitely 2 stories. And some of them, the one up Highway 12 is a 2-story barndominium. So it's, I mean, once you got the space and you got the concrete slab to work on,
just dream and do what you want.
Yeah, you can pretty much do whatever you want.
Yeah, yeah. The other thing I noticed on your website is like doing hangers and stuff like that. Now, I assume, do you see people, because we have, a lot of the people that love the outdoors are also farmers and ranchers, and a lot of them do fly the smaller planes. So that I assume you could put all that together, but there you need that huge opening.
The door, yeah.
Yeah, the door. Is that something you guys, is that a pretty simple thing to do, or?
Yeah, so I mean, it's just like any other pre-engineered metal building. We'll build the building, but then we gotta find a manufacturer that customizes the doors, because it's usually a specific manufacturer that you got to go through, and they send you all the hardware, and then we build it on the ground, the door, and then put the cylinders or whatever kind, because some of them fold and some of them open up wide,
slide open, and then others do that kind of accordion thing or whatever.
Yep. So depending on which one you get, they send you all the stuff. It kind of comes with the building, and then you put it together on the ground and install it. Sometimes there's some structural welding and some other stuff that you need to do to support it. But it's something we have done.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it just seems like this is a real trend, Ryan, around the state. I mean, I'm even seeing, like farmers that, when they either took over their parents' farm, or they've bought this farm, and the farmhouse is, it's pretty much aged its way out. So they're going to this style of incorporating the equipment building and the house with it. I mean, do you see this going on in the future as a big deal for Montana?
I definitely do. It's really popular in the South. I mean, people have been doing barndominiums for some years now, and it's just starting to get popular in the North, it seems like. So I think the more people see them and realize what they can do with them, I think they're going to become more popular.
And on the siding side of it, when you think shop, you think of the the aluminum siding, what do you call that? That corrugated siding or whatever.
Or PBR panels or classic panels.
Can you go with like a, I don't know what it'd be, like a faux log siding or anything like that?
Yeah, you can definitely add, you can do stucco, you can do masonry work, you can do brick outside of these steel buildings. You can pretty much add anything to it.
Anything like you want to do for a house. Once the kit is up, then...
Well, like you see, like your Dollar Trees and your O'Reillys that have stucco and brick and mortar and stuff on. Those are still buildings, actually, that just have stuff built on the outside of them.
Yeah, so you can definitely make it part of the, if you've got this really cool lot and you're looking over the lake and all that, and you want it to kind of fit into the whole thing, you can do it. So it's no big deal. The other thing that I've noticed there in development wise, especially around lakes, and that, some of these places get a little uppity as far as, their covenants and all that. Since you can do pretty much what you want on the outside, are you seeing developments allow barndominiums and shouses at all, or?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was just up at Placid the other day, and I saw a couple metal buildings that were right on the lake up at Placid. So I mean, I think people are doing it.
Yeah, I saw one in outside of Fort Peck that's a development. In fact, kind of interesting there, in that they built a runway, so there's people that own their own home and their own plane, and so it's like a residential area for people that own planes. It's kind of neat. But there, they still have their covenants, but certainly a lot of people are going with this barndominium or Shouse kind of thing because, they got a plane and they got boats and they got all the other stuff. So, yeah. And you can make it look however you want. So what the hell, man? Just go for it. That's really cool. What would you say is the biggest, when a couple sits down, do you have problems with somebody trying to wrap their head around this idea of including the residents in the shop, which again, you don't have to, but I love the idea just because you're utilizing the land so much better. So do you see the husband and wife start to bump heads on this idea, or now that you've got all these concepts for the creature comforts, is it being accepted on both sides?
I think at first they're kind of skeptical about it, but I think most people that have gone with barndominiums, the wives usually fall in love with them.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, you get this idea in your head, but when you go on Ryan's website, and as I said, you can even look around at other places on the web, but if you go on his website, you're going to get a real good idea that thing in your head is just erase that out of your head. You can make it be whatever you want it to be. I've seen them where they can be super modern. I've seen them be like, real traditional, like you were saying in the South. I mean, they even look like a traditional Southern home on that one side, So it really gives you, I think, just all kinds of options. As far as the new stuff that you're building, is it more of the barndominium stuff now, or is the most popular thing primarily just doing the shop?
Yeah, we've mostly just been building residential shops and commercial buildings that people are leasing out is what we've been busy with lately.
For people, especially people that they already got the home, so why are you going to tear down the home? You already have it. Yeah. What about building it onto a home? Is that a tough deal or no?
If you had an architect involved, it's definitely something that we could do. Sure. I don't think there wouldn't be a problem.
Just open the mind. It's all there. All right. Anything else that I haven't covered with you, Ryan, that you want to make sure we touch on before we let you get back to building people's dreams come true here?
No, I think you pretty much hit it on the spot, Dale. Those were some awesome questions. Well,
and I love this for our people, us outdoor folks. I mean, we all kind of stick together. We work together and we play together. I mean, so often, that the buddy you see out on the lake is the same buddy that a lot of times you're working with, or he's a sub for this company and you're a sub from that company and that. So we see each other and we're like-minded. We have the same habits and all the same toys and a lot of the same, really important work trucks and that. So this is really something I just want all of you to take a look at, because I think you're going to find that this is it's just the way to go. I'm just seeing so many of these things now where you're saving some cost by incorporating the building. You're saving your lot space and all that, and it just makes sense. So I hope all of you will take a look at this. And Ryan, if they want to talk to you, rather than just doing the email and that, which I'll get a link to your email, so it'll be really easy for you folks listening. You just click on that link in your email program on your computer or cell phone or whatever. Will just open right up and get the email set for you to go, and you can talk to him that way. But if they want to call you, what's the number that they would chat with you at?
Definitely. They can call me at 406-529-0191.
Okay. And I'll have that in the podcast description for you folks too. And, do just like what we did here, get a hold of Ryan and then just sit down with him and just start shooting ideas back and forth. And before you know it, he's going to probably have the right building for you. And next thing you know, with some openings in the schedule, which is why he's here, because he wants to fill those. But while he's got the openings, now would be the time to get on it. I can't stress that enough, because one thing I love about this audience, once they hear stuff, if they like it, they get on it. So we're no mess around kind of people. So first to the trough gets the most. So get in there and do that and get a hold of Ryan. I want to thank you very much, Ryan, for all your time. I think this is great information for all the folks who love to work and play in the outdoors.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Dale. This is awesome.
If you guys have any questions, now that you've heard all about it, I'm here. I'm happy to get in touch with Ryan with you, or just get a hold of him. Get your questions going, and then get your calendar out, and let's get to building and get those toys put away. Until then, folks, be good to each other. Have fun. Be safe out there, and we'll see you next time here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for listening to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. It has been brought to you in part by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Just go to rmtte.com for more information. So what did you think of today's podcast? Send your questions and comments to Downrigger at montanooutdoor.com. We should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, we will see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.